College football season is finally here again. We're picking conference champions on this edition of Incompetent Sports Talk. Welcome to the brand new season of Incompetent Sports Talk, along with Mike Rabon and Jake Burgers. I'm Alex Solsma. This is our college football preview show, so we're going to dive right in. We're going to start with the Pac-10. I'm going to give you who the Pac-10 champion is. I think it's going to be Oregon. Last year, this team was impressive on offense. They went to the Rose Bowl. They have 17 starters back from that team that went to the Rose Bowl. Now, there's a lot of quarterback issues because we don't know what Jeremiah Masoli was doing, but apparently he got in trouble. He's down at Ole Miss now. But 5 offensive linemen back from last year, so the best offensive line of the Pac-10. They got a great running back in LaMichael James. The last 4 years, they have led the Pac-10 in rushing. Last year, they outrushed their opponents by an average of 100 yards a game. They're going to get it going on the ground again. I like Oregon to go back to the Rose Bowl for a second consecutive year under second-year head coach Chip Kelly. Mike, what do you think?
I can't disagree with you, Alex. I think Oregon is the clear front runner in the Pac-10. As you said, questions at the quarterback position. Darren Thomas was named the starter over Nate Costa. We'll see how that plays out. He's got 3 touchdown passes in his career, but doesn't have a lot of playing time, so he'll really get things going at the beginning of the year. That offense will revolve around him like it did Jeremiah Masoli last year. I think Oregon State looks to be a sleeper. They're projected to be 5th or 6th in the Pac-10, but with the return of the Rogers brothers, new quarterback in Ryan Katz, but experience in their secondary and on their offense and defensive line, I like Oregon State to make a push, and we might see another final weekend Oregon State-Oregon battle for the Rose Bowl, battle for the conference, but in the end, I think Oregon takes it.
And the Pac-10 is a deep conference. I'm going to give you another sleeper. I think Washington. They haven't been to a bowl game since 2002. They went from 0 wins in 2008 to 5 wins last year under first-year head coach Steve Sarkisian. They got Jake Locker back and 17 other starters back. Jake, Pac-10, welcome to the Incompetent Sports Talk family. Who do you got?
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm going to go with you guys. I'm going to take Oregon to win the Pac-10. It was nice to see Oregon win it last year because before that, Southern California had won it for the previous 7 years.
Yeah,
so it was nice to get some variety in there. The Pac-10 features some of the best quarterbacks in the country with Andrew Luck and Jake Locker, as you mentioned before. I do like Stanford to make a push for the title. I like what Jim Harbaugh is doing there. If he keeps it up, he might be the next coach at Michigan. We'll see about that. But I'm going to go with you guys going with Oregon. I do like their quarterback, Darren Thomas. He was a highly rated recruit. He can run, he can throw, he can do a little bit of everything. So I think Oregon has the variety to win the Pac-10.
We're all with Oregon. I have a feeling, though, we might be a little bit difference of opinion on the Big East. That's the next conference we're going to. I like West Virginia to win this conference. A lot of people are talking up Cincinnati. A lot of people are talking up Pittsburgh. But the last 2 years, West Virginia has only won 9 games in each of those years. So they've been considered disappointment by West Virginia standards. But you take a look at this football team. They have 7 starters back on offense, including the electrifying running back Noel Devine. On defense, they got even more starters back. It's a very veteran defense with 9 returning starters back. It might be the best defense in the Big East. Even though a lot of people are hailing Pitt as having the one, I think this is the more veteran defense. I like Bill Stewart to finally win his first Big East title. Jake, who do you got?
Well, I'm going to take Pitt. They're the highest-ranked Big East team in the polls, and I think there's a reason for that. I think they have the best defense. You might say that West Virginia has a veteran defense, but I think Pitt has the most talented defense, and you mentioned Noel Devine, who is a very good running back. He's very electrifying, but the best running back in the Big East is Dion Lewis, and he's going to lead Pitt to the championship.
I do love Dion Lewis. And, just about the Big East Conference, I said the same thing about the Pac-10, but the Big East is also just very deep. All the teams really have a legit shot of winning the conference, maybe the exception of Louisville, who's under new first-year head coach Charlie Strong, or Syracuse, who just went through the Greg Robinson debacle. Mike, make your pick.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love the way Bill Stewart coaches. I think he does things the right way at West Virginia. I think they have a great shot. And like you said, Jake, Dion Lewis is one of the best running backs in the country, so Pittsburgh will be competitive. And you want leadership at key positions. Dion Lewis in the backfield, Greg Romeus on the defensive line. That's huge in the long run, having that kind of leadership and experience. But I'm going with Connecticut and Randy Edsall. It's his 12th season. This is a pick that's a little bit under the radar. A lot of the projections have them 4th or 5th in the Big East, but they return 8 starters on both sides of the ball. Last season, they lost 5 games by 19 points. I think this year they turn the corner. They open up the season at Michigan in the Big House. I think they make a statement there. get a big W, and that projects them, pushes them forward to have a good season in the Big East. But I do think the Big East champion will have one loss, maybe two. I don't see any team in that conference running the table.
Me neither. Let's go to the ACC now. It's another one of those conferences where usually you don't see the conference champion go through undefeated, at least the last few years. In the Coastal, I like Virginia Tech. You know, you can always count on three things with Virginia Tech. One, they're going to have a great defense because they got one of the best defensive coordinators in college football, Bud Foster. They got Beamer ball, which if you're not familiar with Beamer ball, it's winning games because of special teams. And third, they're always going to have a great running game. They returned 2 1,000-plus yard rushers from last year's team. They got Tyrod Taylor, who has a lot of experience, a little inconsistent early in his career, but I think he's going to finally firm up and have a more, let's just say, consistent season. He's a good runner. He's getting better as a passer. They got 8 starters back on that offense. And they do lose some from last year's defense, but what did I say earlier? They always have a great defense every year. I like Virginia Tech to win the Coastal. In the Atlantic, I like Florida State. They haven't been to the title game since 2005, but they might have possibly the best offense in the ACC. They got 9 starters back. They got Christian Ponder back as quarterback. Some people think he might be a dark horse for the Heisman. Their defense last year was absolutely awful, and that's why they lost a lot of their games. They gave up an average of 435 yards a game. That's pretty bad. Mark Stoops, though, great coordinator from Arizona. He's coming in to fix that mess of that Florida State defense. So I like Florida State, Virginia Tech in the championship game. I like Virginia Tech to beat Florida State, and they'll be back into the BCS where they were not there last year. I think they're going back there this year. Mike, Virginia Tech, Florida State, is that what you have?
That's not quite what I have, but I do agree with you on Virginia Tech. Frank Beamer in the last 10 years has only had 2 seasons where his team has won less than 10 games, and both those seasons ended in 8-win years. So 10 years of winning 8 games or more is impressive. They reload, they get new people through these cycles, but they continue to win big, and they continue to put themselves in a hunt for when they played in the Big East, a Big East championship, and now ACC championships. I like Virginia Tech for the reasons you said. I think Darren Evans and Ryan Williams will be a great running back tandem and will give a lot of ACC defenses some problems. Out of the ACC Coastal Division, the Atlantic Division, I like Boston College, and I'll give you one big reason why. Montel Harris ran for 1,457 yards last season. Boston College returns 4 players on their offensive line, and sophomore quarterback Dave Shinsky has a year under his belt, more experience. Frank Spaziani's got that program going in the right direction. And Boston College in the last 4 years has 39 wins. So they know how to win. They know how to put themselves in the right situation. And they returned 6 guys on defense, and they returned Mark Herzlich, a linebacker who battled cancer, who's made that tremendous comeback. I think there's a lot of energy and fire in that program, and they get there. But ultimately, Virginia Tech returns to the BCS and goes to the Orange Bowl.
And, you know, you talked about Bill Stewart as a guy who does things the right way. I think Frank Spaziani at Boston College is the same way. He should have been head coach when they appointed Jagosinski. Jagosinski bolted because he wanted to interview for an NFL job, and I think Spaziani is going to be one of those guys that's going to be at Boston College for a long time. I like the way he runs his program. Jake, who do you have?
Out of the coastal region, you have Miami, who last year got off to a terrific start. Ja'Cory Harris was talked about as being a potential Heisman candidate. However, in I think it was week 4, they ended up getting embarrassed by Virginia Tech. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Virginia Tech to come out of the coastal region. Ryan Williams had a great freshman year. He rushed for over 1,600 yards as a freshman. That's incredible. Out of the Atlantic region, I'm going to take Florida State. I think they have a lot of talent on that team. I think as good of a coach as Bobby Bowden was in his career, I think in the last few years he was a little bit of a distraction. And with him gone, I'm not necessarily happy of how he left. I don't think he left on the right terms. But now that he's gone, I think they can focus on football. Christian Ponder is a great quarterback. I like him to take Florida State out of the Atlantic region. But I'm going to take Virginia Tech to win the ACC championship. But as you said, my dark horse is Boston College. The addition of Mark Herzlich this year is going to be a big emotional boost for them. And if you don't remember, he did win the Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC 2 years ago.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what, North Carolina has battled NCAA investigations, which kills me. You know, I'm a diehard Tar Heel fan. I think if they can pull those things together, and it looks like Ryan Brenner might beat TJ Yates for that starting job at quarterback. North Carolina has a lot of weapons. They've beaten Miami 3 straight seasons, and they won at Virginia Tech last year. So if they can get their off-the-field problems together, watch out. They've got an extremely experienced defense. I think if they're together, they could win the ACC as well.